Welcome to another episode of A Couple Two Tree. So today, to finish out our intro series before we get on to our next stuff, I thought it would be best to speak about a brief history of the real estate industry. And what's better to pair that with, drink-wise, than a gin martini, both of which came out around the mid-1800s. And the fact that as a real estate agent, you pretty much need a handful of martinis to function nowadays, I thought they would go great together. So the gin I use today is Empress Gin. I mean, it's real cool, beautiful, beautiful purple. I got it because of the color. I figured you could make, nice looking cocktails, but it also, it tastes good. So I made a simple gin martini, pretty much just that, dry vermouth, a little lemon in there. So cheers. Let's talk about the history of the real estate industry. It's good, very refreshing. So, the start of the real estate industry can be disputed with starting in either Chicago or New York City when it comes to America. Baird and Warner is the country's oldest real estate firm. It's based in Chicago. They recorded their first transaction in 1855 for a $5,000 mortgage. So pretty much what you pay per month was an entire mortgage in 1855, if that makes you feel any better. But the National Association of Realtors puts real estate happening in New York around 1847. So either way, 1847, 1855, we're in the mid-1800s. It's a long time ago. You're talking 160, 170, 180 years ago. So it's real cool. At this time, you didn't need a license or pretty much anything at all to be a realtor or a broker. You were just a realtor or a broker if you wanted to be one. That was a career path, I guess. You didn't need a license, you didn't take a test, nothing like that. So a group which came to be the National Association of Realtors started trying to come together in 1890 or so. They didn't actually come to fruition until 1908, which was then the start of what's today the National Association of Realtors, which just brought some regulation and kind of just brought the industry together as a whole. And it wasn't until 1919 that they finally put licensing in place. Open houses began around 1910, where agents came up with the idea of having multiple people in a house at once heightens the chances of selling the house. Imagine that. Now, they were showing off technology back then, which was cutting edge, such as just having electricity in the home or a bathroom in the home. That was like futuristic back then, if you can imagine. So this eventually led to buyer's agents coming about, which was about the 1930s or 40s. So what would happen is, an agent, which back then it was pretty much just the agent, a listing agent, the one that was representing the home for sale, they would have all these people come into these open houses, but then, let's say 15 out of 20 weren't interested, but they do want to buy a house, just not that one. So now it became a thing like, well, what are you looking for? Let me check with the other listing agents that I know, and maybe I can find you something. So that was, it took 20, 30 years to come about, but that was the birth of a buyer's agent. Staging began as early as about 1925, and model homes started in about 1950 in Dallas. So since all of these major breakthroughs decades and decades ago, not much has changed as far as the general processes of a house transaction, right? You still, of course, have open houses. You still have buyer's agents, listing agents, still have staging, still have model homes. So that's all roughly the same. But what did change, and what changed, the entire world, not just the real estate industry, is the internet, right? So that brought us into the informational age, per se. You don't have to go to a real estate agent or stop into a brokerage office just to get basic information on what house is for sale, or what houses are selling for, or whatever. You can look up every single thing on your phone. That's the world we live in, which is great. Back then a real estate agent and every industry, they were the gatekeepers for the info in their industry. And that made things more difficult for the consumer, for the average person. To just find such basic info, to have to go to someone for it, that's crazy. Now we're all little mini detectives, right? With our phone, you can look up anything and everything at any time. It's crazy. It's great. But now, having the information is one thing, but applying it to successfully purchase or sell a home is another. So, of course, it's still paramount to hire a real estate agent, because while you can get the info, your agent's going to be the one that puts it together for you in a meaningful way and gets your transaction done with the best outcome for you. So I hope you enjoyed this quick history lesson. Maybe we'll have a couple 2-tree martinis. I know I am. As soon as we sign off, have a great weekend. See you guys next week. We're starting a new series next week. Cheers.